Hey everyone, Joshua Hanlon here at Philly Brick Fest 2021, and I'm joined by a few different builders and their massive Harry Potter layout that you can see behind them here. This is quite a sizable layout, so we're going to be taking a look at the outside and interior of a lot of this here. So why don't you introduce yourselves, and then we'll take a look inside.
Absolutely. I'm Daniel Konstanski, and I'm the main builder here and the one who corralled these two to help me out. So,
I'm Damaris, and I did the interiors and some of the foliage.
this is my daughter, Damaris.
I'm Will, and I did the Quidditch in the back and also Hagrid's hut.
And Will is a relative of ours who came all the way from Wisconsin and had to ship his build and rebuild most of it because did not survive the transit.
Well, it looks like everything came together nicely here. So where do you want to start with taking us through the build?
So why don't we can start just kind of in the front here. So this is kind of the classic Hogwarts view, if you will. And so what we modeled this off of is we wanted to do the complete castle, which going into it, I had no idea how many towers this castle had. Might not have tried to do the whole castle if we'd known how many towers. But so it's as faithful of a recreation as we could of the kind of big Universal Studios model down in Florida. That's what it's based off of. So you've kind of got the Great Hall here, which sits at its accurate angle. That was somewhat tricky to do. And then you got the main viaduct over to the classroom side of the castle, and then on the kind of left side here we've got the quad where they all live. So it's kind of complete all the way around with all the various towers and buildings. We've got the greenhouses over there to the side in white, exactly the right number. There are supposed to be 8 of them, and there are 8, and then all the other various little bridges and ways to get across from one side to the other.
And as you were planning this project out, then where did you start with the build?
Yeah, so we started on the side here with the quad. The big tower was kind of our proof of concept. We said, okay, can we kind of get that right? And once we got that, we didn't have room to display this at home as we put it together. So we kind of had to finish the section, figure out how it would connect to the next section, build the connection, and then put the first part away and go on with the next one, and then just kind of rinse and repeat as we went around. And it was kind of funny because it evolved when we started with the quad, and you'll see it when they open it up for you here in a minute. That's all one monolith. So the rock, the base, the building, all of it is one piece. And I finished it, and I was like, hey, that looks really good, but I will never be able to move an entire castle's worth of all of that. And so as I went, I got progressively, it began to come apart more and more. And by the time you work your way all the way to the other side, everything breaks apart. The rock is a separate thing from the walls, from the foundation, from the supports underneath. The towers all break in half. So it evolved, and I got smarter as I built to the side.
You learned very quickly that if you're bringing it to show.
Yes, and it actually worked. So when we finally got it all out of the boxes and put it together, I was like, hey, it actually all came together the way it's supposed to work. So it was very, very satisfying.
Before we take a look inside, talk a little more about that rockwork, because that really stands out here, and it looks great the way it's so nicely incorporated with the buildings.
Yeah, so that's a technique that I kind of created several years ago. I did a large bat cave for Blocks magazine, and I wanted to kind of try something unique, so I messed around with it. And it's all just slopes, either regular slopes or inverted slopes. Takes forever. But what I love about it is that you can get all these unique organic shapes. So you can kind of do caves, and you can do archways. I've done like big C arches with it before. And so, yeah, and it just worked perfectly for the base of Hogwarts, since it's supposed to, be rising out of the lake. And then we did the water. We had it at first with just the rock, and it just kind of looked boring with the blue base plates. So that's where we did the kind of surf breaking up against the rock, and that just kind of made it pop a little bit with color and such. So we're really pleased with how the rock turns out, and then being able to weave it in amongst the stone and the gray walls, which are much faster to put together, but you can kind of weave them together and they don't look as plain.
Right, fantastic. Well, let's look inside then. So which building should we start with here?
Damaris is going to show you the quad back here. So
I built all of the furniture and beds myself.
Tell them a little bit about the inside, what they're seeing.
So the beds, I just Googled Lego beds, and we got a twin version of that, and Dad helped me modify the design to be a four-poster like they are in the Harry Potter. And then there are the couches. It's a technique that Dad taught me. and then I made up the tablecloth out of dark red bricks, and then also Dad made the walls in like dark red bricks. And as you might be able to see, there's a fireplace that Dad built into the wall.
Yeah. So you were able to include, fireplace. You got the lights up there and all these different details, all within a pretty small space. There was it difficult to fit all that in to just those hallways?
Well, the thing is, the roof pops off, and I actually did most of like the bedrooms, which are like the hard part, from above.
Yeah. So you were able to have more build space. Then can you give us an example of that and kind of how it comes apart?
You can show you how the roof pops
Yeah.
up. So it's right, so you can kind of see I can't quite do it here because the tower has to be out of the way, but it just kind of slides in and out after you put it in there. So the angles up there were actually really hard to figure out to get all because it's meeting at right angles, but still has to slope. So getting that right was tricky, but it was nice to get the seams to pretty much line up in the end.
I love seeing builds that can come apart like that, and then it lets you access all those details, almost like a dollhouse playable effect.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're going for over here. So, Will, why don't you come over and show them the Great Hall?
So yeah, we'll take a look in this building next.
So I really didn't do much of the castle, but
Show them how it opens. Yep, pop off the roof and then just open her up. And you put all the minifigures in there.
yeah.
So you were able to include all the different minifigures. Take us through kind of what's happening in this room.
So you have the ghosts flying around, and the candles are lit up. And then you have the teachers sitting in the teachers' booths or whatever.
Kind of up front there.
Yeah.
You got some banners and like a chandelier on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Damaris was the one who built all of them. Damaris was the one who built all of those, and then Will filled in all the minifigures when he got here. So it's a good team effort. Yeah. So, and then
Great work, thank you.
the last piece that opens up is, and I'm gonna have to lean forward here to get it, but you can pop out part of the castle because it wouldn't be Hogwarts if you didn't have a moving staircase somewhere in the model. So, and the movies they cheated because there it's all they show it as a round tower, but they did it in a square movie set. So we had to make it rotate instead of swinging like they did in the movie. So that's but we're blaming that on their movie magic and their ability to do that. So.
That's very impressive. What was it difficult to get that function in there? How did that come together?
It actually really wasn't. So it's a pretty simple gear mechanism hidden up here in the top, and this can pop off, and then it's just a simple axle, and we just geared it down so that it spun a little bit slower. So, yep, pretty simple, but effective.
Looks like quite the ride in there.
Yeah, I think they would. I think that poor minifigure is going to get a little seasick before too long. So, but
Well, let's keep walking around this way then. We can take a look at some more of the builds. So kind of saw inside there. What do we have out front here?
yep. So this is the back side of Hogwarts, and you actually somewhat see this in the movies and such, but it's not where a lot of the action happens. So we actually had to dig pretty hard to find good reference material for this. So this is the clock tower, which is actually in the back of the castle, which makes zero sense because no one's ever out here to see it, but hey, whatever. And so that kind of sticks out the back of it. And then as you work your way, and that's what's cool about that is that it's actually separated from the castle because that's where the canyon starts. That kind of is in the movies is a canyon that wraps around behind and then runs in between the two halves of the castle, which is why the castle is divided. And that's visually one of my favorite parts, just because it looks really cool with the narrow archway that goes over the top. Again, why they make the kids go up all the stairs to then come right back down the stairs when they could have just put a bridge lower. Who knows?
Got to get that exercise
That's
in.
right. I guess that's, when they're not running from Voldemort, they've got to do stairs. So, but just the separation there was really cool how that worked out. And then as you come around, so again, the quad bends and goes back the other way, and there's more of a canyon there as well. So we just took that opportunity to do a little more of the rock work. And then there's the Hagrid's hut. That was a natural place to put it. And then, so the way that we did this, because we live very far apart, we're in Delaware, and then Will and his family are in Wisconsin. And so we sent him all the pieces to do Quidditch, and then we would do Zoom calls for him to explain what he was doing and make sure that it would all fit together. And so I'll let him real briefly explain what he did on that, because this is all him. He did this whole thing, shipped it here. It arrived completely broken, but fortunately he remembered what he'd done, and with his dad's help was able to throw it back together. So Will, go ahead. You tell him.
So when it came, everything was pretty much destroyed. There wasn't really anything that was built. It was all in chunks. So we just had to slowly assemble it, and the jumper plates were already on, so it was nice because we didn't have to put those back on and try and find out how to re-angle it. And then we also had to assemble some new stuff here because we didn't have all the pieces back in Wisconsin. So
take us through the design of this. Talk first about the towers and the different colors and design elements you have there.
So most of the towers are just in the back. There are the columns, and then you have the 1 by 2 by 2 bricks for the checkered pattern, which we tried to make sure that that's all lined up.
So it creates the pattern nicely.
Yeah. And then for the stands on the outer edge, on the corners you have the jumper plates to make them angled in sort of the oval pattern that it is. And then also the lines in the field, which we had to experiment with since it was an odd number, so.
And inside the field here, point out some of the characters and what's going on.
So I kind of just experimented with all the clear pieces and just sort of went crazy and put like all the balls flying and the characters as well.
Lots of action. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it came back together for you nicely here, and it definitely adds some nice addition of color to the otherwise kind of tan and gray castle over there.
Yeah.
I was fully unprepared for how much the color was going to really make it pop, so it looks really good. So, and then beyond that, we've got kind of this a little bit of the Forbidden Forest, and then one of my other favorite parts of it is how we were able to suspend the carriage up there. That's the Damaris is going to have to help me. The resident Harry Potter expert. I don't remember the name of those people.
Bo Batten's carriage.
The Bo Batten's carriage. Yes, I'm the builder. She is at many times during this build. She would say, "Dad, you can't do it that way. That's not how it is in the book or movie."
She's the fact checker.
She is absolutely the fact checker. She was a hard taskmaster, but it was good. So, but we were able to kind of suspend that at an angle and then also, kind of bend the horses so it actually looks like it's in motion. And actually, it hasn't fallen. So
Yeah, it looks like it's just a few pieces holding that up there.
It's a very few pieces holding it up, but it worked really well. And then the astronomy tower, that's supposed to be the tallest tower in the castle. So that was the big one that we did. And everything, all the tall towers have a really strong Technic frame all the way up the inside. So we actually transported on its side. And all the main big towers have that, and even most of the rest of the structure. So that's been really nice for moving it around because it really hasn't broken at all in terms of the structure. So, and as you come around, you've got the center area, and again, that's a part where you pretty much never see it in the movies, but there's a huge courtyard in there. So we went ahead and did that, and we did. Damaris had to get roped into doing there's all this cobblestone pattern throughout thousands of the little 1 by 1 rounds and 2 by 2 rounds. And so she got really good at giving it a pattern, and her goal was always to make sure that there was never two of the same piece right next to each other.
I mostly succeeded. When I kind of built myself into a corner, I would just use a stud and put it in place, and it looked pretty good.
There you go. It works. I'm glad you found a system that worked for you.
And then we've got the Whomping Willow.
Yes, it's the Whomping Willow.
So the Whomping Willow here with the car in it. And then there's this is one area where we did have to take a little bit of liberty because this just kind of the front of the castle, I think this is technically the front of the castle, is in the movies it just kind of tapers off into terrain. So since we didn't have the actual place for the Hogwarts Express to come in over in Hogsmeade, which is apparently the village across the river, or the lake, as I have been told. So we just made a little bit of a train station here so that we'd have a place. And so one of the things that we do, try to always make my displays interactive for kids. So we're going to let kids, they can start the train at 9 3/4 station and then stop it at Hogwarts so they can, quote unquote, deliver the kids to the school. And yeah, so then this is the big. It's interesting how the castle, and I'm guessing it was intentional, though I don't know the reason why, but it's got very different architecture depending on which side you're on. The residential side is much more like your classic castle, and then this classroom side is much more like a cathedral. So it's very much a cathedral shape. So got to play with different architectural styles throughout the build, which was really fun. And then had to populate it with minifigures. That was kind of the last piece, and it is really hard to get Harry Potter minifigures. Thank goodness they had a little $15 4-person pack at the Lego store. So we bought way too many of those and populated the build throughout with all sorts of figures. And you have to be very careful when you do something like this because every single set comes with Harry. And so we've got a lot of Harrys facing the other way, or we would swap out hair, but the face is so distinctive with the glasses and everything. So we've got a lot of Harrys facing the other direction.
You've also got another character that found its way in here.
Yeah, so the other tradition of ours is we always, from the very first display I ever did, we always do a look and find for kids to be able to, see fun things. So yeah, we hide different things. And this year we upped it. They wanted both a easy look and find and a really, really hard look. And I must say, they were very mean with where they hid some of these figures. There's a few that you have to be standing in exactly the right spot. So, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to do it, especially the added fun of having a distance build being done at the same time. That was a first for us, and it came out really well.
So what was set up like then at the show, since this is the first time it all been together in one spot?
It took forever, but it worked pretty well. So it's the biggest, quite honestly, and this was new for me because I've done large displays before, but nothing close to this size. And never a contiguous structure like this, and getting it all level so that it could, when you're doing it one section at a time, it doesn't really matter. But when you're doing it almost 7 feet in diagonal dimension, by the time you get to the back corner, all of your little cheats kind of all come together, and it's not lining up. So, but we were able to make it work. But that was definitely the most challenging part, was getting it to be somewhat level.
You also incorporated lights throughout. It looks like pretty much the entire thing.
Yep, the whole thing, with the exception of a couple of the towers, just because it's hard to run lights up through Technic frame. But yes, so there are lights throughout both the residential and classroom sides of the castle. Yep, so I think it's 6 different light kits running throughout on the inside there. And we were able to run it up underneath because obviously the inside is just supports and stuff to elevate the whole build. So, and yeah, it's extremely complete. Everything, it's pretty much as you would see it. And they actually changed the castle throughout the movie, so there's no one reference in the films. But we figured the model at Universal Studios was as close to definitive as you were going to get. So that's what we chose to model it after.
Right. No, it's certainly a great looking layout here. You've got the train going around, all those lights inside to make it stand out. And then I'm glad it all came together, all the different parts, even from other parts of the country that you're able to bring in here as well. So I'm sure the public will love checking all of this out.
That's what we're hoping. And as Damaris keeps saying, whatever we build next, Dad, it has to be in tan. We don't know what it's going to be, but it has to be tan.
You say that, Dad.
Oh, fair
It's
enough.
not me.
You're the one buying the bricks, that's why.
She's the expert, I'm the bank. So that's how it works.
Yeah, well, keep up the good work. Look forward to see more of your work in the future. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.